I am Dora Thompson, 58 years old, and never in my wildest dreams did I imagine my only daughter would ban me from her Paris wedding, a wedding I helped pay for with my retirement savings. The email arrived on a Tuesday. "Mum, it would be better if you didn't come. You can watch through the Google Earth window, LOL." I sat there stunned, reading those words over and over. I simply replied, "Sure, enjoy your big day." The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing, but I was already somewhere else. Before I tell you what I did, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button, because trust me, you'll want to hear how this story ends. Life wasn't always this complicated with Amelia. After her father walked out when she was just 7 years old, it was just the two of us against the world. I worked 2 jobs, administrative assistant during the day and waitressing 3 nights a week, to make sure she had everything she needed. We lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Portland, but I made sure Amelia never felt like she was missing out on anything. Our Friday movie nights were sacred. We'd build a blanket fort in the living room, pop popcorn, and watch whatever movie she picked, even if it meant sitting through The Little Mermaid for the 20th time. Those nights with her little head resting on my shoulder as she drifted off to sleep made all the exhaustion worthwhile. When Amelia showed academic promise, I picked up extra shifts to pay for tutors. I still remember the pride on her face when she got accepted to Northwestern University with a partial scholarship. I sold my mother's jewelry to cover what the scholarship didn't. Not once did I complain. Her success was my success. Throughout college, we spoke almost daily. She'd call to tell me about her classes, her friends, and eventually about meeting Francois during her junior year abroad in Paris. He came from old money with family vineyards in Bordeaux and a last name that apparently opened doors in French society. When she first mentioned him, I was happy she found someone special, though I wondered what a wealthy French guy saw in my middle-class American daughter. After graduation, Amelia moved to Paris to be with Francois. I supported her decision, even though having an ocean between us broke my heart. We still FaceTimed weekly, and I visited twice a year, staying in their spacious apartment in the 16th arrondissement. Francois was always polite but distant. His family, especially his mother Isabelle, barely acknowledged my existence during the one dinner we all shared together. When Amelia called to announce their engagement 2 years ago, I cried tears of joy. She seemed so happy, and even though I had reservations about how Francois sometimes spoke to her, I kept them to myself. This was her choice, her happiness. She immediately launched into wedding plans, a grand affair at a historic chateau outside Paris, with over 200 guests. "Mum," she said, "we want you to be part of everything." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? In the beginning, I was included in the planning calls. I even set aside $30,000 from my retirement fund as my contribution. It wasn't much compared to what Francoise's family was spending, but it was significant to me. Amelia seemed grateful, telling me it would cover the flowers and part of the catering. The first red flag appeared when Amelia mentioned that Isabelle had selected her wedding dress without me. "It was spontaneous," she explained. "We were at this exclusive salon, and she insisted this was the one." I couldn't say no, Mum. I swallowed my disappointment. "As long as you love it, sweetie." More exclusions followed. The tasting menu was decided without me. The venue tour happened when I couldn't possibly make it to Paris. Even the bridal shower was scheduled during my busiest time at work, making it impossible for me to attend. With each passing month, I noticed Amelia's tone changing. Our FaceTime calls became shorter, less frequent. She started using phrases that sounded nothing like her and everything like Isabelle. "It's about social connections, Mum. You wouldn't understand the importance of certain traditions." Still, I never imagined I would be completely shut out of my only daughter's wedding day. The changes in Amelia became more pronounced as the wedding date approached. Our once warm conversations grew stilted and formal. "Actually, Mum, we're going with lilies instead of roses. Isabelle thinks roses are too common," she'd say, dismissing the flowers that had been her favourite since childhood. I noticed she started referring to Francoise's parents as Mother and Father Beaumont rather than their first names. When I asked about it, she laughed uncomfortably. "It's just respectful, Mum. They're very traditional." 6 months before the wedding, I was still planning to attend. I'd bought a pale blue dress that the salesperson assured me was perfect for a mother of the bride. It cost more than I'd ever spent on clothing, $879, but I wanted to look appropriate among the wealthy French guests. I'd even started French lessons online, determined to at least be able to express gratitude and basic pleasantries. The invitations went out 4 months before the wedding. Mine never arrived. When I casually mentioned this to Amelia, she said, "Oh, we're sending American invitations separately. The European ones went out first." Another week passed. Nothing came. I called Amelia on a Sunday afternoon, expecting our usual chat. Instead, she sounded harried. "Mum, I can't talk long. We're at the Beaumont's country house finalising the seating arrangements." "I'd love to help," I offered. "After all, I know your American friends better than Francois does." There was a long pause before Amelia replied. "Actually, we've decided to limit American guests to just a few of my closest college friends. It's easier for the caterers to plan a more cohesive menu that way." My heart sank. "But what about Aunt Jenny and Uncle Mark? They've already bought their plane tickets." They were my older brother's children, who had been like siblings to Amelia growing up. "I've already emailed them," she said curtly. "They understand it's a small wedding." 200 guests didn't sound small to me, but I bit my tongue. In the background, I heard a woman's voice, Isabel's, calling Amelia's name. "I have to go," Amelia said quickly. "Mother Beaumont needs me." After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at the calendar, where I'd marked the wedding date with a heart. Something felt very wrong, but I couldn't quite place it. Was I being pushed out? And if so, why I'd been nothing but supportive of their relationship. I booked my flight to Paris anyway, planning to arrive 3 days before the wedding. When I emailed Amelia the details, her response was tellingly brief. "Got it. We're really busy that week with rehearsals and family dinners. No offer to pick me up from the airport. No invitation to any pre-wedding events. No mention of where I'd be sitting during the ceremony, or if I had any role to play." I called my best friend Sandra that evening. "I think Amelia is ashamed of me," I confessed, tears streaming down my face. "I'm not sophisticated or wealthy enough for her new family." "That's ridiculous," Sandra said firmly. "You're her mother. You raised her single-handedly. If she's acting this way, it's because she's being influenced. The Amelia you raised would never treat you like this." I wanted to believe Sandra, but the evidence was mounting. Each conversation with Amelia left me feeling more like an obligation than a beloved mother. The daughter who once couldn't wait to tell me about her day now seemed annoyed by my very existence. 3 weeks before the wedding, I still hadn't received any concrete information about my role or even confirmation that I was expected to attend. I'd already paid for my non-refundable flight and reserved a hotel room near the chateau, unwilling to assume I'd be included in the family accommodations. I sent Amelia a text. "Sweetheart, I just want to confirm what time I should arrive at the chateau on your wedding day. Also, is there a rehearsal dinner I should attend?" Her response came hours later. "Let me check with Francois and get back to you." She never did. The email arrived on a Tuesday evening in May, just 11 days before the wedding. I'd just returned from walking my dog Bailey and was settling down with a cup of tea to check my messages. There it was, subject line, "About the wedding, important." My hands trembled as I clicked it open. "Mum, after talking with Francois and his family, we think it would be better if you didn't come to the wedding. There are some concerns about cultural differences, and the Beaumonts are very particular about keeping the event aligned with their traditions. I know this is disappointing, but we can set up a live stream so you can watch. If you really want to be part of it, you can always check it out through the Google Earth window too, LOL. We'll have a small celebration when we visit at Christmas. Love, Amelia." I read it once, twice, 3 times. Each time the words cut deeper. The casual cruelty of suggesting I watch through Google Earth as if I were some distant acquaintance rather than the woman who had given birth to her, who had sacrificed everything for her success, who had contributed financially to this very wedding, it left me breathless. The LOL was what broke me. How could she make a joke out of breaking my heart? I sank to the floor, my back against the refrigerator, covered with magnets from places we had visited together. Bailey nudged my hand with his nose, sensing my distress. I couldn't even pat his head. I felt paralyzed. Memories flooded back. Amelia's first steps taken toward me with a toothy grin, staying up all night with her during bouts of childhood asthma, working overtime to pay for her senior prom dress. The look of pure joy on her face when she got her college acceptance letter. Had none of that mattered? Had it been so easy to discard me, I don't know how long I sat there crying, but eventually I dragged myself to the phone and called Sandra. "She doesn't want me at the wedding," I sobbed when she answered. "Her fiancé's family thinks I'm not good enough." "What? That's insane," Sandra said. "What exactly did she say?" I read her the email, my voice breaking at the Google Earth comment. "That little brat," Sandra hissed. "After everything you've done for her, does she forget who put her through college, who supported every dream she ever had?" "Apparently," I whispered. "You should call her right now and tell her what you think," Sandra urged. "Or better yet, go anyway. You have every right to be at your daughter's wedding." But even in my pain, I knew creating a scene wouldn't solve anything. This wasn't just about me. It was about what Amelia had become and the choices she was making. Showing up uninvited would only confirm whatever negative things Francoise's family had said about me. "I need to think," I told Sandra. "I'll call you tomorrow." After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine, something I rarely did on weeknights, and took it to my bedroom. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, the tears now dried on my face, leaving tight, salty tracks. On my nightstand was a photo of Amelia at her high school graduation, her arm around my shoulders, both of us beaming at the camera. Where had that girl gone? How had she turned into someone who could dismiss her mother so casually? I picked up my phone multiple times to call her, to demand an explanation, to remind her of everything I'd done for her. Each time I set it down again. What would that accomplish? If she truly felt I wasn't good enough to attend her wedding, my protests wouldn't change her mind. Instead, I drafted several responses to her email, deleting each one. Too angry, too hurt, too pleading. None of them felt right. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, replaying not just the email, but the last few years of our relationship, looking for signs I might have missed. Had I been too controlling, too distant, too involved, I couldn't identify anything that would justify such treatment. By dawn, I'd made a decision. I wouldn't fight. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't give Amelia or the Beaumonts the satisfaction of seeing me grovel for inclusion. If they didn't want me there, fine. I would accept that with dignity. But I also wouldn't be sitting at home watching a live stream of my daughter marrying into a family that had deemed me unworthy. I had another plan entirely. As the first light of morning filtered through my blinds, a strange calm settled over me. After a night of tears and self-doubt, I'd reached a place of clarity. This wasn't about me being inadequate. It was about Amelia making choices that reflected her new values and priorities. I couldn't change her mind, but I could choose how I responded. I opened my laptop and composed a brief reply to her email. "Sure, enjoy your big day. No anger, no accusations, no begging, just acceptance and a dignified exit." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Next, I called the airline to cancel my flight to Paris. The representative informed me I would receive a credit minus a $200 change fee. "Would you like to book another flight?" she asked. "Yes," I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. "I'd like to go to Bali as soon as possible." Bali had always been on my bucket list, a place of healing and self-discovery according to everything I'd read. Amelia knew this. We'd talked about going together someday when I retired. Now seemed like the perfect time to go alone. I found a reasonably priced package that included a beachfront hotel in Seminyak, daily yoga sessions, and several cultural excursions. It would depart 2 days before Amelia's wedding and return a week after. The cost was actually less than what I would have spent in Paris, where I'd booked an expensive hotel to make sure I didn't embarrass Amelia with budget accommodations. After confirming my new travel plans, I called my boss at the real estate office, where I worked as an administrative manager. Patricia had always been understanding about family matters, and she didn't disappoint now. "Take the time you need," she said after I explained the situation without going into humiliating details. "Family stuff can be complicated. The office will still be standing when you get back." With work taken care of, I called Sandra to tell her my decision. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "Don't you want to fight for your place at the wedding?" "What would be the point?" I replied. "I can't force Amelia to want me there, and honestly, I don't want to be somewhere I'm not welcomed, especially on what should be a happy occasion. But Bali by yourself. Why not? I've spent my entire adult life putting Amelia first. Maybe it's time I prioritize myself for once." Sandra was quiet for a moment. "You know what? You're right, and I'm proud of you. This is much better than sitting home feeling sorry for yourself." Over the next few days, I threw myself into preparing for my trip. I bought new summer clothes, a quality camera, and several books I'd been meaning to read. I arranged for Sandra to take care of Bailey. I even signed up for a beginner's surfing lesson, something I'd never had the courage to try before. What I didn't do was contact Amelia. She didn't reach out either, presumably taking my brief response as acceptance of her decision. Perhaps she was relieved I hadn't made a scene. What she didn't know was that while she walked down the aisle in Paris, I'd be walking along a beach in Bali, reclaiming my sense of self-worth. The night before my departure, I sat on my porch with a glass of iced tea watching the sunset. For the first time in days, I felt at peace. I wasn't running away from pain. I was running toward healing. I wasn't punishing Amelia. I was honoring myself. In my suitcase was a journal Sandra had given me as a going-away present. On the cover was a quote: "Sometimes the journey to find yourself begins with leaving behind those who couldn't see your worth." I planned to fill those pages, not with bitterness about what I'd lost, but with discoveries about who I could still become. At 58, my life wasn't over. In fact, in some ways, it felt like it was just beginning. As I locked my front door the next morning, suitcase in hand, I felt a lightness I hadn't expected. Amelia had made her choice. Now I was making mine. The day of Amelia's wedding dawned bright and clear in Bali. I awoke to sunshine streaming through my beachfront villa window and the gentle sound of waves. For a moment, I forgot why I was there, and then reality crashed back. Today, my only daughter was getting married, and I wasn't welcome. I allowed myself exactly 5 minutes to feel sad about this. Then I got up, put on my new sundress, and headed to the beach for a sunrise yoga session. As I moved through the poses facing the ocean, with other travelers seeking their own peace, I felt something shift inside me. Today wouldn't be about what I was missing. It would be about what I was finding. After yoga, I had breakfast at a beachside cafe. Fresh fruit yogurt and Balinese coffee, so rich it needed no sugar. The server, a young woman named Neoman, asked if I was celebrating anything special. "A new chapter," I told her with a smile. "Just for me." I spent the morning exploring local art galleries, purchasing a small painting of a woman standing alone on a cliff, looking out over the ocean. The artist had captured a sense of solitude that wasn't lonely, but powerful. I knew immediately where I would hang it when I got home. Around the time Amelia would be getting dressed for her ceremony, I was receiving a traditional Balinese massage in an open-air pavilion surrounded by plumeria flowers. As skilled hands worked out years of tension from my shoulders, I released not just physical stress but emotional burdens I'd been carrying too long. I deliberately chose not to watch the live stream. Instead, I signed up for an afternoon cooking class where I learned to make satay and nasi goreng alongside travellers from Australia and Germany. We laughed as we fumbled with unfamiliar ingredients, and for those hours, I was just Dora. Not a rejected mother, just a woman enjoying life. When evening came, morning in Paris, when the reception would be starting, I joined a small group tour to a local temple for a traditional dance performance. The intricate movements of the dancers telling ancient stories of love and betrayal moved me to tears. But they weren't tears of self-pity. They were recognition of the universal nature of human relationships, how they evolve sometimes painfully across time and cultures. Throughout the day, I posted photos on my rarely used Instagram account. Sunrise yoga, beautiful breakfast, temple visit, me smiling in front of a waterfall. I hadn't posted anything in months and certainly nothing so carefree and adventurous. I didn't tag Amelia or mention her wedding. These posts weren't about her. They were documenting my journey. It was around midnight, Bali time, early evening in Paris, when my phone exploded with notifications. First came a text from Sandra. Amelia is freaking out. She's called me 3 times asking where you are. Then the calls started. Amelia. Amelia again. A number I didn't recognize with a French country code. More texts from Amelia. Mum, where are you? Are you okay? Why aren't you answering? The live stream says you haven't logged in. I silenced my phone and placed it face down on my nightstand. Whatever crisis was happening at the wedding wasn't my concern. For the first time in my adult life, I was putting myself first, and it felt both terrifying and exhilarating. The next morning, I had 17 missed calls and numerous voicemails. I listened to the first one as I sipped my coffee on my private patio. Mum! Amelia's voice was tearful, frantic. Where are you? Everyone's asking about you. Francois's mother asked if you were ill, and I had to tell her I don't know where you are because you're not answering your phone or watching the live stream. Please call me back immediately. The second voicemail was angrier. Mum, this is completely irresponsible. You could at least have the decency to watch my wedding online if you couldn't be here in person. I nearly laughed out loud at the irony. Couldn't be there in person, as if it had been my choice. The third message was from Francois himself, his accented English stiff with formality. Mrs. Thompson, your absence has caused Amelia great distress on our wedding day. Please contact her as soon as possible to assure her of your well-being. So that was their story. They were worried about my well-being. Not that they had hurt me, not that they had excluded me, but that something might have happened to me, and that was why I wasn't dutifully watching their live stream. I sent a brief text to Sandra. I'm fine. Having a wonderful time in Bali. We'll call Amelia tomorrow. Then I turned my phone off completely and joined my scheduled tour to the terraced rice fields of Tegalalang. As I walked among the emerald green paddies, chatting with my tour guide about Balinese farming traditions, I felt miles away from the drama unfolding in Paris, not just physically, but emotionally. By choosing not to engage immediately with Amelia's panic, I wasn't being petty. I was establishing a new pattern. I would no longer drop everything to soothe her emotions, especially when she had shown so little concern for mine. Our relationship needed new boundaries, and this was the first step in creating them. That evening, I posted more photos, including one of me at a cliffside temple at sunset, looking peaceful and content. I added a simple caption, finding myself in unexpected places, #new beginnings, self-discovery. Within minutes, Amelia commented, "Call me right now." I didn't. Instead, I enjoyed a seafood dinner on the beach, watching fire dancers perform under the stars, and went to bed feeling more empowered than I had in years. Returning home from Bali was like stepping into a different life. My tan skin and sun-lightened hair were the most visible changes, but the real transformation was internal. I carried myself differently, shoulders back, head high, with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced rejection and chosen self-respect instead of self-pity. My house was exactly as I'd left it, with Bailey ecstatically greeting me at Sandra's side. But my phone contained the evidence of the storm I'd caused: 43 missed calls, dozens of text messages and emails ranging from frantic to furious. Sandra filled me in over coffee at my kitchen table. It was chaos, apparently. When people asked where you were and Amelia had to admit she told you not to come, it didn't go over well. Even Francois's family seemed shocked. Her college friends were especially upset. Lisa and Jennifer actually left early in protest. I didn't mean to ruin her wedding, I said honestly. You didn't, Sandra assured me. She did that all by herself. And from what Lisa told me, the Beaumonts are now blaming Amelia, claiming they never suggested you shouldn't attend. They're saying she misinterpreted their concerns about cultural differences to mean you weren't welcome. I wasn't surprised by this turn of events. People like the Beaumonts would never take responsibility for the hurt they caused. They'd find a scapegoat, and Amelia had offered herself up perfectly. After catching up with Sandra, I finally called Amelia. She answered on the first ring. "Where have you been?" she demanded, her voice shrill. "Do you have any idea what you've put me through?" "I was in Bali," I said calmly, "taking a vacation." "Bali? During my wedding, why would you do that?" I took a deep breath. "Because you told me not to come to Paris. You said I could watch through Google Earth. Remember, I decided I'd rather see the real Earth instead." There was a long silence. When Amelia spoke again, her voice was smaller. "I didn't think you'd just disappear." "What did you expect, Amelia? That I'd sit at home alone watching my only daughter marry into a family that deemed me unworthy to attend? That I'd be grateful for the livestream crumbs you offered?" "It wasn't like that," she protested weakly. "There were concerns about cultural differences," I finished for her. "Yes, your email was quite clear. What exactly were these differences, Amelia? My lack of a French pedigree, my middle-class American manners, the fact that I work for a living instead of living off family money. Mom, please." She was crying now. Francoise's mother suggested it might be easier for everyone if the wedding was just more cohesive. I didn't know how to say no to her. "But you knew how to say no to me," I pointed out, keeping my voice level despite the anger bubbling inside. "You knew how to tell your mother, who raised you alone, who put you through college, who contributed $30,000 to your wedding, that she wasn't welcome at the most important day of your life." "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I made a terrible mistake. Everyone was so upset when they found out you weren't there because I'd told you not to come. Francoise's parents acted like they had no idea what I was talking about. They said they never meant for you to be excluded completely." Of course they hadn't. Not explicitly. People like the Beaumonts were too sophisticated for that. They'd merely suggested implied made Amelia feel that her mother's presence would somehow tarnish their perfect French wedding, and Amelia, so desperate for their approval, had done their dirty work for them. "Where's Francois now?" I asked. "He's upset. We had a huge fight about it during our honeymoon. He says I embarrassed his family." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Amelia, I need time to process all this. I can't just pretend it didn't happen because now you're facing consequences." "But you're my mum," she said, sounding suddenly like the little girl who needed me to check for monsters under her bed. "You're supposed to forgive me, and I will eventually," I assured her. "But forgiveness doesn't mean there aren't consequences. What you did hurt me deeply, and rebuilding trust will take time." "What can I do?" she asked plaintively. "Give me space. Reflect on your actions and why you made the choices you did. Think about what kind of relationship you want us to have going forward, because the old one, where I give everything and you take it for granted, is no longer an option." After we hung up, I felt emotionally drained but also relieved. I'd spoken my truth without losing my temper, without saying things I'd regret. It was a beginning, not an end. Over the next few weeks, Amelia made consistent efforts to repair our relationship. She called regularly, sent thoughtful gifts, and most importantly, listened when I talked about how her rejection had affected me. She admitted that she'd been so focused on impressing the Beaumonts that she'd lost sight of what truly mattered. Francois, too, made attempts to make amends. He sent a formal letter of apology,